Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Well, you know what? You can't be picky right now if you are a Mets fan. You cannot pick apart any win that they get from this point forward, to be completely honest with you. As the Mets blow out the Nationals 8-0, where if you just look at the final score of this game, you're thinking, wow, the Mets must have put on a clinic today. I mean, in some regards, they absolutely did. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Klay Holmes was absolutely dominant tonight. 6 innings, shutout ball, just 3 hits and a walk against the highest scoring team in the National League. I know that comes as a big surprise, being the Washington Nationals, but that is what they have been to this point so far. So excellent performance from Klay Holmes, who continues to look like an all-star through his first 6 or 7 starts this year in 2026. But the lineup does put up 8 runs, and that's obviously going to be what steals the headlines from the Mets series opening win here over Washington. But if you watch that 4th inning where the Mets exploded for 7 runs, their largest inning here of the season so far, you gotta admit they got a little fortunate there, as Jorbit Vivas allows a ball to go under his glove on what off the bat from Marcus Semien appeared could be a 5-5-3 double play that would have ended another bases loaded, less than 2 out jam for the Mets, just like we saw in game 1 of the doubleheader on Sunday against the Rockies. But them's the breaks sometimes, as I like to say here on my channel and broadcasting out to X as well. Sometimes you have to take advantage of the other team's mistakes. We know very well that other teams have been doing that all season long against the Mets, and it is nice to finally be on the other side of that as the Mets are able to capitalize. 2 runs come home to score on Marcus Semien's ball there. Obviously, this game got started with Bo Bichette's leadoff homer in the 1st inning earlier in the game, and then after that, Carson Benge adds an RBI single. The Mets keep getting runs home. Bichette with a sac fly, which passed the baton to Juan Soto, who hit his 2nd home run of the year, and it all totaled up to a 7-run 4th inning, and the Mets never looked back from there. Never needed to, that is for sure, as the Nationals really had nothing going for them at the plate, and again, largely in thanks to the impressive performance from Klay Holmes once again, whose ERA is well below 2 now so far. So hey, a win is a win is a win. I am happy about it. The Mets desperately need to do what they can to get a sweep here over Washington, D.C. I think we learned pretty well over this past weekend that there is no easy task for the Mets right now. The Rockies came into Citi Field and just wiped the floor with them in that 3-game sweep. It's nice to see the Mets get back on track here. The question is, what happens next? Do the Mets go out and lose the next 2 against the Nationals here to wrap up the homestand? That would be an outright disaster before hitting the road again. Or can they find a way, bear down, win the next 2, and finish with a winning homestand over these 9 games at Citi Field this past week and weekend? So that's what I'm looking for. Day at a time, go 1-0 every day. That's all you can really do at this point when you are the Mets and have dug yourselves the kind of hole that they have done. So happy about this one. We're going to break it all down here. But guys, what's up? I'm Tony Metro. You know the drill. Daily Mets content here on YouTube. Be sure to hit subscribe if you are not already. Post-game Mets streams after every single game. Leave a like on this video. Go ahead and do that now. Really appreciate it. Helps the channel out big time. And if you are watching on X, you can come over to YouTube. Link to that is on my profile, and you can be a part of the chat. I see we got some people in here already. I will get to you guys in just a moment. If you are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and follow me on the other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Links to those are in the description of this video down below. And if you guys have been watching this week, we've had a lot of callers on Discord, which has been a lot of fun. So if you guys want to call in and be a part of the show, I welcome it. I'd love to hear from you guys. Just go to the link in the video description below to Discord. That will put you in the waiting room. And then when I am ready to take phone calls, I will pump you in. And you can say your piece about the Mets. But obviously, obviously today is going to be, I think, a little more positive of a day. We got that article today from Ian O'Connor of The Athletic calling out Steve Cohen, essentially saying that he's been a failure of an owner. I clap back in my own video about that, so we could talk about that. We could talk about Kodai Senga hitting the injured list today, as we know, with lumbar discomfort, something like that. I know it's something lumbar. So he actually had, what do they call that? When they give you that injection, I can't remember the name. I'm not a doctor, as you guys can tell. But yeah, we can talk about pretty much anything Mets, including this game. So nice to be on track. Let's go to the chat. Safely Anonymous, great game. They need to bring back Murphy on the TV commentator. He brings a new current player perspective. Yeah, Murph's pretty good. He's not bad. I will say, sometimes a little over loquacious. Coming from me, that says a lot, right? But sometimes talks a little too much, but he's feeling his way out still. He's still trying to get, his feeling and rhythm in the booth, and I think he does a really good job. And he does bring that new gen kind of fresh perspective that, look, don't get me wrong, you will never find me ever say a bad word about Ronnie or about Keith Hernandez, but obviously they played in their era, and as much as they've tried to keep up with some of the new analytics and things like that, they are not as interested as someone like, say, Murphy, who actually played in the most recent era of baseball. So yeah, Murphy wasn't too bad in the booth tonight with Gary. Salvatore, amazing, swept by the Rockies, but win against the Nationals, but let's go. I'm a really good Mets fan right now. I love them. That's how it goes. They win, we love them. They lose, we hate them. It's an abusive relationship. I think every Mets fan can attest to that for sure. Safely Anonymous, Vientos' walk was charity. He's taking the good pitches and swinging at the bad ones. Vientos is in a bad way, and we will touch on him. I don't want to get into it all right this second off the bat. I want to try to keep the vibes somewhat positive here after a nice win, but Vientos has looked not only lost at the plate, but in every aspect of being a professional ball player. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why I say that, but the challenges on a ball that was very clearly down the middle, I mean, just brutal, just a bad decision in the spot that Vientos used that challenge. I believe it was in the third inning while it was still a 1-0 game, maybe earlier in the fourth inning before that rally all came together. But we'll talk more about Mark Vientos in a little bit here. Salvatore, amazing. I'm so happy. All right, we got to pump the brakes. It's only one win. Let's hope they can go on and sweep the Nats. You go on and sweep the Nats, and I'll feel a lot better, despite having just got swept by the Rockies, Because then you got the Angels in Anaheim, which, I'm sorry, should be at least 2 out of 3 or a sweep if you finally are able to correct course. And then you get a little revenge opportunity against the Rockies after that, as the Mets head to Denver to take on Colorado. So that would be nice, getting them in their own ballpark the way that they got us, and then trolling the Mets on social media. Completely earned, by the way. But yeah, there is an opportunity in front of the Mets. I laid it out last week before the Twins and Rockies series. Unfortunately, the Mets really spit the bit there against Colorado, so let's hope. Harold Jimenez, we did it. We did it. The Mets are now only 9 games under 500, guys. There we go. We are back, baby. Sal Capello finally caught a break, Tony. You know what? That's a good way to put it, Sal. And I know I kind of poo-pooed how that fourth inning started with that ball going under Vivas's glove and Simeon getting, the double. It's really an error, but getting the second and 2-run scoring on that. And that opened the door for the big inning. But number one, how many times have the Mets not taken advantage of their opponent's mistakes? I mean, a million times it seems. And how many times have other teams just brutalized the Mets for their own mistakes? So, like I said, it is just nice to be on the other side of that. And sometimes that's how you win games and need to win games. And the Mets have far too often not done that either this year or going back to the second half of 2025. So I will take it for sure, Sal. Harold Jimenez, LGM, let's go. He says first pitch home run from Bo. Love to see it. Bo, ultra aggressive, taking care of Littell. The Mets finally make a tomato can pitcher look exactly like he is. Littell coming into this game with an ERA over 7. I mean, am I crazy to say that there are some times that I actually would prefer the Mets to have an ace coming up on their schedule than a guy like Zach Littell? Because we saw it with Michael Lorenzen on Friday. We saw it to a degree with Jose Quintana in game 1 of the doubleheader on Sunday. Sometimes these guys, they come into these games with these atrocious numbers and have been brutal all year long. and the Mets just, for whatever reason, can't find a way to hit them. That, of course, is not the case here tonight as they knock Littell out of the game before completing that 4th inning. So the Mets feasted on a bad pitcher. It's something we've been begging for them to do all year long. If you looked at this lineup before the game began, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't super confident. Not that the Mets weren't capable of beating the Nationals or beating up on Littell, but when you have MJ Melendez hitting cleanup, when you have Vientos and Beatty going through what they've been going through, hitting in 5-6 spots after him. Simeon's been what he's been so far. And then Ronnie Mauricio finishing things out with Carson Benge in the 8th spot. Yeah, I was not super confident about this lineup today, but nice to see an 8-0 win. Tony HVAC, thank you. An epidural is what Kodai Senga went for. I honestly genuinely believed it was a phantom IL stint for Kodai Senga when we learned he was placed on it today. I thought it was very similar to what happened in September of last year or late August when the Mets sent him down to AAA. Obviously, that was different. He accepted the minor league assignment, but I thought it was under the guise of he is so rattled and bad right now. We're going to phantom IL him. We're going to give him an opportunity to get better and, some rehab starts, quote unquote, in AAA. We'll never know the answer. Hopefully that's not the case because we know that's why Billy Epler, the former Mets general manager, was suspended for a year for abusing the injured list system. But yeah, that's kind of how I took it when I saw the news of Kodai Senga going to the injured list. But the epidural does kind of tell me, all right, well, maybe it actually was something physical. Whatever it is, Kodai Senga's got to figure it out. And the more that this keeps happening, the more I am getting concerned that there just is no answer and there is no resolution because we are going back now to essentially August of last year. And he just has not been able to get back on track outside of a handful of decent starts. The first 2 of this year, the last 3 since have just been absolutely awful from him. Thank you, Tony, for letting me know. The epidural, yes. Jose Lopez Moya, even though they won, the Mets are the most expensive, boring, pathetic team in baseball. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know how to make you happy, Jose. We get an 8-0 win. I'm not running, victory laps. I am not going to put my mortgage now on the Mets winning the World Series, but I will happily take a Mets W anytime I can get it. And I tried to frame it as well as I could in the fact that, yeah, they were gifted some of those runs there from the error from Vivas that opened the door for that big 4th inning, for sure. And you have to recognize that. Again, Simeon pounding the ball into the ground in what could have been a tailor-made 5-5-3 double play. So if you're going to ignore that and just pretend everything's okay, then I have a problem with you. But if you're also going to sit there and say they suck and this isn't fun and they're boring, I don't know what to tell you. It's a win's a win. And it's still early, and let's see what happens next. That's what I love to say. What happens next? Because this is fine and dandy, but if you go lose the next 2 of this series and you finish with a losing homestand, boy, you can almost stick a fork in this team. So, they have almost run out of last chances, and it is not even May. My goodness. Just insane. Jack says he's selfish talking about Mark Vientos, I believe. Yeah, just a bad decision to challenge there. And I love that Gary Cohen doesn't mince words because you've got to be less, he didn't use the word selfish, but let's say more self-aware that that's probably not a good spot to use your challenge with a 1-1 count and nobody on base in the 3rd inning in a 1-run game. A really poor decision by Vientos, who also made the poor decision of blowing through Tim Leaper's stop sign the other night, rounding 3rd base. And now that we're into it, I'll just get into it all. Dumping an Instagram photo shoot a couple days ago in the middle of this Mets terrible streak right now. Mark Vientos, read the room, man. Are you here to be a New York celebrity and icon, or do you want to be here and have a great baseball career and potentially win a World Series with the New York Mets? I'm frustrated with Vientos from what I've seen this last week. It was a really promising start to the year with that excellent road trip out in San Francisco and St. Louis. But to be doing some of the things he's done, not only on the field, but then off the field with, the whole Instagram thing. And look, you're allowed to have a life outside of baseball. You're allowed to have a social media. But at the same time, read the room. Like I said, come on, have an idea of what we as fans are going through, is what you as a team are going through, and maybe not the best time to be posting stuff like that. But that's my piece on Mark Vientos for sure. Jose Lopez, Mets fans should chant, "We want Cora." Well, you're not getting Cora because the Phillies fired Rob Thompson today, and they have now hired bench coach Don Mattingly as their manager. However, prior to that, they did offer the job to Alex Cora, but Cora declined, saying that he'd like to spend his time with his family, which is another way of saying, I'm going to get paid for the next 2 years by the Boston Red Sox as long as I don't sign another contract with a team to manage. I ain't going anywhere. Okay, he's got like 20-something million still left on his contract with the Red Sox. And if he goes to sign on with another team that he manages, he forfeits that money. I'm pretty good with staying at home for those 2 years if I'm Alex Cora. He is not going to manage another team this year. I'd be shocked if he manages another team before that contract is over with Boston, which I believe would be after next year, potentially 28. Don't quote me on that, but he'd have to get blown away and have a deal that essentially overrides that one, pays him more than what he's getting paid right now to simply sit on his couch. So Cora will not be managing the Mets anytime soon. Let's see. Kaibasan and Vientos needs to go. We will see. I mean, I don't know. We tried trading him in the offseason. There weren't any takers, but David Stearns has been pretty quick with the trigger so far early this year. Richard Lovelady, Luis Garcia has made some moves in the starting rotation, taking Peterson out for a start, taking Senga out for that week. And now Senga is going to the injured list. You know, we'll see what happens. I would not be surprised. We've seen it with the position player side. Tommy Pham, obviously, didn't have much of a leg to stand on, but DFA'd yesterday or Sunday rather after that game. So David Stearns has kind of gotten back to that 2024 mode where there were rapid fire moves all the time. If it wasn't working and you weren't a part of the solution, he was cutting you and you were gone and making changes. And I'm not saying that this is going to work every move he makes, because clearly he's made a lot of mistakes in the last calendar year with this roster. But it's very possible that if Vientos continues to stumble this way, that they may give Beatty the reins at first base. And let's be fair and honest about it. Brett Beatty hasn't done a whole lot to insert himself as a legitimate starting first baseman, either with his bat or with his glove over there at the corner either. So lots of potential changes. We will see. NY Mets fan, wait, the Mets won? Been focusing on the Knicks. Yeah, Knicks playing the Hawks in Game 5 at MSG. I'm going to switch over to that. I'm going to keep my eye on it all night. But obviously was watching the Mets here on the big screen for the most part, so I could come out here and do my post-game stream with you guys. But yes, the Mets gotta win. Jack Noyedo says hopefully it creates momentum. I mean, I hope so, but obviously that is what we were hoping would be the case after winning 2 out of 3 versus Minnesota. And look what that turned into, getting swept in a lifeless series by the Rockies. So as much as I hope that the Mets can finally get over this slump, get over this hill, nothing really tells me that's going to be the case necessarily. Yeah, you got a great performance from Klay Holmes today. Yeah, you scored 8 runs. You got your first shutout performance from your pitching staff this year. But what's going to carry them next? Klay Holmes isn't going to go start the next 2 games for them. Is the lineup going to go out and put up 8 more runs? Are they going to be fortunate enough to even get an opportunity from a mistake like the Nationals gave them today on the Vivas play, and then to capitalize on that mistake? I don't know. We'll have to see. But hopefully this does finally get the Mets in the right direction. Duana Ponte, Kodai Sang, who's been a bust, had an epidural. They need to start winning series. They do. I mean, you can't take any more sweeps. That is what goes without saying. They let the Rockies do it, but obviously they need to just stack up series W's now at this point. So go in tomorrow and let's see if the Mets could actually step on an opponent's throat and get the sweep of Washington on Thursday. How beautiful that would be before heading out to Anaheim to take on the lousy Angels. I better bite my tongue because the Mets have looked every bit of lousy as the Angels have over the last couple of years so far in 2026. Let's see. Sal Capello, enough of the Robert trade for Buxton, please. I don't think Buxton's going anywhere. Buxton has said it many times throughout his career. Loves Minnesota. I believe he's born and raised there. I know he has got some type of connection there. I don't think Buxton's getting traded. And honestly, that guy is so injury prone. Yes, as much as I would love to insert Buxton into this lineup, one, the Mets made a big investment in Luis Robert this year in the form of $20 million. Forget Luis Angel Acuna, whose OPS is below 500. Okay, so clearly Acuna is looking kind of like what we thought he was going to be. But $20 million into Luis Robert this year. And I don't believe in just because something is a sunk cost that you should just roll with those punches and not try to fix the problem. But the Mets don't have room to add Byron Buxton at this point, either in the form of his contract or roster management, unless you're sending Robert back to Minnesota, which, number one, I think this is a little premature of a conversation, but number two, it's just on paper not going to work out that way. The Mets would obviously have to send some pretty impressive prospects. And speaking of prospects, one of those guys that the Twins would absolutely ask for is AJ Ewing, who just got the promotion to AAA and debuted tonight with the Syracuse Mets. And all he did was go 3 for 4 with a double and a triple. I think he might have only been a home run shy of the cycle in his AAA debut. So, wow. Very exciting times for the 22-year-old AJ Ewing, who really burst onto the scene tonight for AAA. We'll see what happens. I think Nick Morabito is still the first guy they call up in the case of needing some outfield help this year. But wow, AJ Ewing, if he continues on this path after destroying AA pitching for the first 19 or so games this year, oh boy, he's going to be on the fast track to the majors. And hey, how about Carson Benge? 2 hits tonight, including keeping that rally going. You just saw it on your screen right here. That was pretty cool, huh? He's looking a lot better. Has totally got him back to that left field, up the middle approach. Not that long, pull-happy kind of swing that we saw him get into after the opening day homer. He has looked a lot more like the Carson Benge that we saw in the minors over the past couple years and what we saw out of him in Port St. Lucie down in the Grapefruit League season this year. So that was really, really fun to see Benge coming through and has just looked a lot more professional at the plate. So really happy about that. But let's see who else we got. Bloodhound Lil Jeff Heyman, Andrew Tate signing with the Mets in a utility role. Are you sure about that? I don't think so. I don't think I want to touch that one. All I know is that Tate's got a weird reputation. I don't know much else about him. But Harold Jimenez, my almost obsessive relationship with the Mets has me believing that David and Mendoza are playing chess with the rest of MLB. Let them think we suck so they are unprepared when the bats are unleashed. Wouldn't that be nice if that was possible? I unfortunately think the Mets have just been going through a collective slump for the last month or so. Really, I guess the whole season then you could call it, right? So hopefully you're right on that one, Harold, but I just think the Mets have just not been putting up good at-bats and not been getting the job done when they need to. But fortunately tonight they do just that, and it is a W, and it gets them to 9 games under 500. They've still got a big hole to climb themselves out of. Right now, Knicks are leading the Hawks by 17 with the final 30 seconds in the third quarter. Jose Alvarado from downtown, bing bong, 90-70. New York Knicks, go New York, go New York, go. Mike Smith, Phillies and Boston fired their manager. That is right. Phillies fired Cora. Thompson is out in Philadelphia. The Phillies got a win today in their first game under Don Mattingly as their interim head coach or manager, And then Boston, I believe, had a lead at one point. They had been playing well. I think they were 3-0 since firing Cora. I don't think that has anything to actually do with Cora. I just think they're playing better and up to their actual potential. But 2 manager firings in the first month of the year. I mean, that's unprecedented, right? And from 2 playoff contending teams, Boston and Philly. Philly, who's been a perennial playoff team since 2021, 2022, whatever it is. And then in the case of Boston, a team that seems to have this weird kind of up and down thing with them, but has all the talent in the world. And if you asked, I'd say out of 10 experts this offseason entering the year, give us your playoff picture. Every 10 of them would have had both the Phillies and Red Sox having a playoff spot, whether it was the division or it was a wild card spot. I think every team would have picked it. So I applaud them for having a sense of urgency And I think a lot of Mets fans kind of felt left out, kind of like the Squidward in the house looking down at SpongeBob and Patrick having fun outside meme. Like, wait, they could do that, but why haven't we moved on from Mendoza? And you guys heard me say on Sunday, look, I'm ready to do it. After that sweep to the Rockies, I thought the Mets were going to fire Mendoza. I truly did. I thought that it would be someone else managing this team tonight against the Nationals. And it's still on the table without a doubt. We will see what happens next. Like I said before, if the Mets go now lose the next 2 games of this series versus the Nationals, then I think it's time, because there's been a couple opportunities where you just barely got your head above water. You did it with 2 out of 3 versus the Twins. You come out tonight, you get a shutout 8-0 win, and you can't capitalize on that momentum. Well, then something clearly is wrong in that clubhouse. Something with the leadership, in my opinion, is an issue. And so I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if it happened at any moment. Obviously, it's not going to be tonight, but we shall see how it goes. Will Salmon, friend of the show, was recently on the Salicata show, said that he'd be kind of surprised by it. He thinks it's still really early. I didn't get his opinion or takes on the Boston and Philadelphia decisions to move on from their managers, but I do tend to agree with him in some ways that it's early. But when you look at what happened down the stretch in 2025, having another terrible collapse the way that the Mets did, and then it turns into the season they have started in 2026, it's not just a slow start. This is 4.5 months nearly of bad baseball under Mendoza's watch, and now with different players. So that's where I can't agree with the idea that, oh, it's early, you got to give Mendy some time, you got to give the players some time to gel. This is a continuation of last year so far to this point, and let's just hope that tonight is a jumping off point for them. But we've said that before in the past, and it was not true. So let's hope that this is finally the chance for the Mets to jump off of this terrible streak they've been on and get things right. Harold Jimenez with the super chat. Harold, thank you very much. $10. Thank you, sir. He says, thank you for reporting and rejoicing when we win and also sulking when we lose as a community. Stay true to the orange and blue. Harold, thank you very much. $10 right to Mookie's Bone Fund. I appreciate the super chat very much. Hey, look, this is therapeutic, man. This is therapeutic just to be able to talk Mets. When they win, it's nice. It's fun. When they lose, we can stomp our feet and scream, and it's just a good way for all of us to get all these feelings and emotions out. That is for sure. So, Harold, I'm glad you're a part of the community. Thank you very much. Guys, if you're just tuning in, Mets get the 8-0 win over the Nationals, 7-run 4th inning. A little gifted to them. Let's not lie about it. That Jorbeat Vivas era definitely opened the door for them, but you know what good teams do is kick that door open when there's a little crack in it. So nice to see the Mets finally on the other side of doing that. But if you're just tuning in, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Daily Mets content, post-game Mets stream after every single Mets games. Leave a like on this video. Really helps the channel out a lot. Go ahead and do that right now. I appreciate that from you guys as well. And again, phone calls are open if you guys want to hop into the show and be a part of it. Go to the link in my Discord or in the video description of this YouTube video down below and go to Discord. And when I'm ready to take phone calls, I will pop you in. Anything you guys want to talk about. Could be about the piece from me and O'Connor today about Steve Cohen. It could be about Kodai Senga hitting the injured list. It could be about the Mets 8-0 win. Whatever's on your mind, it is an open forum, that is for sure. So let's see, who else do we got here? Mike Smith, already got you. Sorry, man. Danny Caps, shout out to Holmes, 1.75 ERA. Didn't see that one coming. Klay Holmes, my goodness. I mean, the dude has been easily their best starting pitcher so far this year. And I'm saying even with Nolan McLean in factored into that, without a doubt. McLean's been excellent. Don't get me wrong. He's still going through some growing pains. He's still learning how to harness his stuff, how to use it at the big league level and pitch to big leaguers. But I said it the other day on Saturday where it feels like sometimes there's an inning where they kind of figure him out. And it never really blows up into a big inning, but it'll start with a base hit and then a walk and then another base hit or two. And all of a sudden, it looks like the wheels are kind of coming off. But to his credit, McLean does a really good job of bearing down and limiting the damage, keeping those super big crooked numbers off the board. So I credit him for that. But how could you say that Klay Holmes has not easily been the Mets' best starting pitcher so far? I can tell you that I have the most confidence with Klay Holmes on the mound out of anybody in the Mets rotation, out of the Mets bullpen, period, stop. He has just been unbelievable. As I need to refresh over here, as you guys can see the video I was posting earlier today. Let me go ahead and try and do that. I really wanted to share my screen so we could look at Klay Holmes' numbers here. Let me see if we can get this going, Device not available. Come on. This is why I need a producer. You know what I mean? Someone that could just help me with this stuff while I'm midstream. I don't think we want to do this. Nope. We don't want to do that. All right, let's give this one more shot, and then I'll come back to you guys in a sec. Let's see if we could restart. There we go. Bing, bong. Knicks 94, 74 as Mitch Robinson throws it down. But Klay Holmes, I mean, my goodness, 1.75 ERA now, over 36 innings in his first 6 starts. I mean, he's giving you an average of 6 innings per start, an earned run average of 1.75. I mean, the whip below 0.97. Last year, one of the big issues for Klay Holmes were his walks, but so far, it's not really been an issue at all. 11 walks in 36 innings. He's given up 24 hits, so a total there of, 35 base runners? That's why the whip is below 1, right? So, I mean, just unbelievable stuff from Klay Holmes. And I'm actually a little upset with the Mets right now because they didn't give any highlights of Klay Holmes from tonight's game on Twitter that I could have put into my little thing over here on our broadcast, but he deserved it because once again, man, Klay Holmes just continues to be steady Eddie, as you guys know I like to call him, just always reliable for, at a minimum, it seems, 5 innings, but more often than not lately, giving you 6, sometimes even 7. And I think the Mets probably could have pushed him to 7. I don't know what his pitch count was after 6. Actually, we could figure that out right now because he got yanked after the 6th inning. So tonight it was 94 pitches, 64 of them for strikes for Klay Holmes in this game. All right, so yeah, definitely was done after 6. No reason to put him back out there for the 7th inning with an 8-0 lead. Tobias Myers came in, 18 of his 25 pitches for strikes. And guys, let me just ask you this. If you were a betting man or woman, which would you have wagered on more likely to happen? The Mets scoring 8 runs in one game or Craig Kimbrell striking out the side in any inning at all this entire season? Because we got both of those things tonight. The Mets get the 7-run inning in the 4th. They put up 8 for the game. Did not expect that, even with Zach Littell's 7+ ERA on the mound for the Nationals this evening. And then Craig Kimbrell coming in and putting the finishing touches on this one, striking out the side against DC as the Mets pitching staff limits DC to just 3 hits and I think just 2 walks in this one. So a total of 5 base runners, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had first and second there in the 3rd inning, and Luis Garcia struck out on a foul tip there, courtesy of Klay Holmes, and that was one of the bigger moments, I guess, before this game kind of got out of hand. So, I don't know. I guess I'd probably have picked the Mets putting up 8, but I can't say I would have picked that confidently, but definitely a little more confidently than I would have picked Craig Kimbrell striking out the side in an inning this year, but happy to have it either way. Jose Lopez Moya, there's an MLB love triangle between Mendoza, Stearns, and Uncle Stevie. That's why nobody gets fired. You need to write down all of these conspiracy theories, Jose, and put them in a book. I need you to publish it and send it to me so we can just scroll through them, turn the pages, and just pick one for each day, year after year, and we look back on these. Jose, you're amazing, man. You're one of a kind. Harold Jimenez, Senga is getting put in the bullpen. I'm calling it. Now, that's a good question. Could Senga go to the bullpen? And I don't know that he's going to work well in the bullpen, which is what concerns me. Because we discussed this in the offseason a lot. When we were trying to figure things out, and we knew that the Mets were shopping Kodai Senga, he had said to the Mets, essentially, I'd love to stay here if I could. And the Mets clearly didn't like the offers that they got on Kodai Senga in a potential trade. So we talked about, would he be a fit in the Mets bullpen? And I don't think he is, because he's already so fragile in a starting rotation. The Mets have done everything they can to accommodate Senga and put him in the best position to succeed. They have went with the 6-man rotation pretty much since he came over from Japan. They have given him 7 days rest. They gave him 9 days rest before his start in game 2 of the doubleheader on Sunday and got blown out. Oh boy, that was almost bad. And it still hasn't worked. He looked good the first 2 times through the rotation this year in the 5-man rotation, and then had those 3 really ugly starts in a row. So I don't see how Senga is going to be able to adjust to now coming out of the bullpen willy-nilly with really no kind of true idea or feel for when the Mets are going to summon him in relief. And a guy that, again, needs that rest, has been completely catered to, having that 6 full days, 5 full days of rest as part of the 6-man rotation. And it also begs the question of what the hell are the Mets going to do when A.J. Minter comes back? Not to say A.J. Minter's a savior, but hopefully can come back and be effective. But we already have Sean Manaea in the bullpen, one of their projected starters for this year. You saw David Peterson get removed from the rotation for about a week and put in the bullpen. So what are we going to do with all these guys? You can't just simply put every starter that's been failing into the bullpen because there's just not enough room on the pitching staff. So it's a good question. It's a possibility, I guess. But a guy that's never done it before, a guy that has, I don't want to say pampered because that sounds like a negative connotation I'm using toward Senga, but particular is probably the better way I could say it. A very particular guy. And the Mets knew that when they acquired him or, signed him out of Japan. But, needs to have his kind of, routine. So I don't know what to do with Kodai Senga at this point. Definitely a conundrum for me with Kodai Senga at this point. Do I think it's possible that they maybe actually just finally cut bait? I don't know. Him, Peterson, Manaea, 3 huge question marks that we knew would be coming out of last year's second half. And to this point, I've been wrong. I thought that 2 out of those 3 guys were going to bounce back. In the early going, it looked like I might be right, where Peterson looked pretty solid his first few starts. Senga looked really good his first 2 starts. Manaea was the only outlier in that group. But it is looking a lot like the second half of 2026 now from those guys, where Manaea has been in the bullpen all year long with varying results, where Senga is going on the injured list and will eventually have a AAA rehab assignment. And David Peterson is, as trustworthy as wherever the wind's blowing that day. You just don't know what you're getting out of David Peterson at this point either. Christian Scott will be getting the call, and he will take Kodai Senga's spot in the rotation. I found that a little interesting. I wonder what that makes the Mets think about Sean Manaea. Because they either think that Sean Manaea is what he is at this point and is best suited for the bullpen, but not capable of being a starter. Or the positive way that maybe they're looking at it is he's been effective enough as a reliever that they look at him as a weapon. I'm not sure where I fall on that because I've seen some good and I've seen some bad out of Sean Manaea. From appearance to appearance, from inning to inning within a relief appearance. So it is as much of an issue the hitting is for this team, and it is the biggest issue by far. This pitching staff is really not too far behind either, and it's concerning, especially when you consider that the team is 9 games under 500, and a big reason for that are all these problems that we just discussed right now. So let's see, who else do we got here? Harold Jimenez saying is getting, oh, we got that one. Sorry. Jose Lopez. Holmes had the stuff to pitch a complete game tonight. I mean, for sure. If the pitch count wasn't that high, yes. If it wasn't such a blowout win, absolutely. But no reason to have him go out and continue pitching with an 8-0 lead and 6 shutout innings under his belt. But nonetheless, a great performance from Klay Holmes for sure. Jimenez says, you know, the rest of MLB's going at the jaw, awaiting for him on off season. You know, he's going to opt out. As far as Klay Holmes, for sure. Yeah, he's going to opt out. He's earned it. We'll see what happens. I could see him getting kind of a deal similar to like what Michael King got in that like 3-year, like $80 million range kind of thing. And we'll see. Maybe he's really comfortable with the Mets and the Mets can retain him. But we'll also see what the strides are made, or what strides are made within the Mets minor leagues, you know, in their farm system. Is Jonah Tong ready to come up and be a legitimate starter by the second half this year, or ready for that by next year? What is Jack Weniger? You know, we got to see where all those things pan out. But obviously, if you ask me right here today, man, I really hope the Mets find a way to keep Klay Holmes, whether it is on the option or giving him a new contract. Because like I said, Steady Eddie, he is the guy that I trust the most on the mound for the New York Mets right now, without a doubt. Sean Almgren, Kimbrel striking out the side also gives Stearns his credit for the Holmes signing. That was an excellent signing, without a doubt. Got to give it to David Stearns on the decision to not only sign Klay Holmes, but to become a starting pitcher. And we all kind of rolled our eyes when that happened after the 2024 season. But, man, he is really turned into an excellent starter. Klay Holmes has been really, really good. Great signing from David Stearns. Good call by you there, Sean. He says Stearns has done plenty wrong, obviously, but got to give him credit. Holmes absolutely home run signing. Absolutely, without a doubt. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the bad signings to this point outweigh the positive good ones for Stearns' tenure. And this is not the episode for us to do that. And I think you guys know that for the most part, I'm pretty supportive of Stearns. But it does come to a point, push comes to shove, where you need to start winning ball games. And I need to start seeing that if you want me to, you know, give a full endorsement of the president of baseball operations right now. Sean, I messed that one up. He got blown. I think I meant to say blown away is what I was trying to say. And then I just got caught in between sentences. Jack Noyedo is saying his time here might be up after this season. I mean, he's got 1 year left after this season. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. He may not even make it through this year with the Mets. I mean, he's borderline unpitchable at this point, and he was last year. He didn't pitch in 2024 because of the injury, and when he returned from the for the playoffs, he was bad in the postseason that year. So we're talking one really excellent year, and then the first half of last year from Senga. Outside of that, it's not really worked out, unfortunately. And it's tantalizing because we've seen him pitch like an ace in the past. We've seen him pitch like a guy that could be at the top of the rotation, a game 1 or game 2 starter in a playoff series. But whether it's physical or mental or a combination of the two things at this point, Senga has just looked anything but that going back to the second half of last year. Knicks leading 104-82, under 7 and 15 to go. 7 minutes, 15 seconds left in this one. So the Knicks looking to take a commanding 3-2 lead before heading back to Atlanta. For my Knicks fans out there, all I'll say is the Knicks have got to close this series out in the ATL whenever that next game is. I would have guessed on Friday. Do not let this have to come back to MSG. Not that I don't think the Knicks will take care of business at the Garden, but all the pressure is obviously on you if you let this series get back to the Garden, especially because we saw what CJ McCollum did in game 2 of the series. Just completely took over. Knicks blew that big fourth quarter lead, so you cannot have them losing in Atlanta, if you ask me. Just put the Atlanta Hawks away by winning game 6 in their house. You already won game 5 there. Game 4, rather, to tie this series. This is game 5 right now. Just take care of business in game 6 now down in the ATL. That's my little Knicks right there for you guys. I know there's no Nets fans out there in New York, so we could talk Knicks a little bit here. Let's see. Jose Lopez says maybe Senga is just good enough to pitch 1 or 2 innings before he runs out of gas. And that's what's interesting, Jose, because that would make him a tailor fit for the pen. My question is, though, number one, is he capable of that physically, just because we know the amount of rest he needs? And even if he does give you 1 or 2 really solid innings out of the pen, what's his availability like then? Because for whatever reason, it seems like he needs this, extended period of, rest in between appearances as a starter. And obviously it's different when you're in the bullpen, but it's something that he's never done before as far as I know in Japan, and most certainly has never done here in the big leagues since joining the Mets in 2023. So if you gave Senga an inning or 2 and he was really solid out of the pen, what does that look like as far as his availability moving forward after that? Like, does he need 4 to 5 days? Because you just can't have somebody in your bullpen like that, especially considering the waters they're trying to navigate already with Sean Manaea, a starter pitching out of the bullpen at the moment. So I'd be interested to see how it goes. I'm not, shutting the idea down. I just don't feel like that is even an option, to be totally honest with you guys. But at this point, it seems like a last resort, and that kind of feels like where the Mets and Senga are right now for sure. Harold Jimenez, I can finally wear my Mets shirt in the office tomorrow. Good for you, Harold. Wear it with pride. I'm going to take a couple more days, although I do wear my Mets hat most days. So, I'll give a little shout to the Mets on the win tonight, no doubt. Hudson Holmes getting sold at the deadline for a pretty penny. Hey, hopefully the Mets are back in the race and they're buyers, not sellers. Let's hope that. But let's just push it a little bit. Yeah, if the Mets do not get their act together and they are selling at the deadline, Klay Holmes is going to bring you back something nice for sure, especially because of that option he has where really it's a player option, so it doesn't actually appeal to the teams that are interested in trading for him as much, but it's still in the back of their mind a little bit, just in case he decides he does want to opt in. But if he continues pitching this way, there's no way he's going to be looking to cash in after this year. Jose, Holmes being retained by the Mets. Stingy Stearns can't even retain a cucaracha. Is that a cockroach? Cucaracha? You're funny, Jose. Madeline Schmidt got a sweep. No exception. Madeline, completely with you on that. And she also says she loves Murphy. So do I. Again, I think he's getting more and more comfortable and better as each broadcast goes. So nice that even when Gary or Ron or Keith are not available, that we got some solid fill-ins. And I think Murphy's probably the heir to Keith's position as kind of the hitting analyst in the booth. So hopefully not for a few more years with either of those two guys departing. But poor Mets fan saying is mentally soft to any deviation physically or mechanically, and he falls apart. It's fair to say. And that is why I'm so not concerned, but why I'm not convinced that that's a legitimate option of putting Senga in the bullpen. Because all it takes is for him to get called upon in a situation that he wasn't expecting or he has not done before. And it seems like those kinds of things are going to rear their ugly head. And so as open to the idea of I am and saying, and I can just like envision him as like the setup man, maybe even the closer with that ghost fork in the 9th at some point this year, closing out big games in August. I just don't think it's going to be a reality, but I'm open to anything at this point with him. As again, guys, Kodai Senga placed on the injured list with a back injury, essentially is really what it is. Got an epidural today, and obviously he's going to go through the whole rehab process. Christian Scott taking his place. But guys, the Mets got to win today. And that is good news. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, we cannot be picky about Mets wins at this point. They need as many as they can, and that includes tomorrow and Thursday. I hope they go get this sweep, but it starts just with tomorrow. Win 2 out of 3. Secure, I believe that would mean at least not a losing homestand, although no, that's not possible because it's a 9-game homestand. But hopefully you get tomorrow, and you could put the finishing touches on everything on Thursday with the sweep of the Nationals before heading back out to the West Coast for the Angels and Rockies series. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to wrap it up right here. It's a nice 8-0 dub. The Knicks are on. Hopefully you guys are watching that as they are leading big in the fourth quarter of this one right now, trying to take a 3-2 series lead. But we will be back with more Mets content tomorrow right here on my channel. So if you are not already subscribed, hit that sub button. Daily Mets content, post-game streams after every every Mets game. Leave a like on this video on your way out. Harold Jimenez, I want to thank you again for the $10 super chat. Really appreciate that from you, and enjoy wearing your Mets shirt tomorrow in the office. But everyone else, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it very much. I hope you enjoy your Tuesday evening. That is going to do it for right now, though, guys. Until next time, I'm Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.